This is a story about the stories we tell ourselves, the stories we live out in the world, and the space between those two. It's about how we love, how we lose, and how we recover, or not, through the stories we make up in our heads. I'm Robin Rice, and this is also my story. Postscript, Alchemical Gold. Our stories evolve as we do. They morph and change. Ideally, they grow in essence, even as they become agile in form. Bendy, I like to say. They push us like the wind in the trees. They speak gently to us and through us, like the stars at night. They hold us up when we don't know who we are, like the ground we walk on. They are alive so long as we are. This is contrary to what we are taught about facts, as I have said here in so many ways. Contrary to the supposed superiority of scientific rigor. Contrary to how we are instructed to believe life is supposed to work. The scientific approach and point of view, and make no mistake, it is only one approach and one point of view, leaves no room for the truly evolutionary power of stories. And this is a big reason why we are collectively so very sick right now. Once science was vehemently denied in favor of religious control, but now it is the king holding court. That alone should tell you the power of stories that move. Yet for all its splendor in explaining our physical world to us, the limitations of science now suck the life out of our stories, render them dead, like an October leaf that has fallen to the ground, been pressed into a book and saved for a revisit at some future date that may or may not come. As if the tree itself is not still alive. As if we ourselves are not alive. But our stories are alive, and so are we, and we have the tools of alchemy to transform them and ourselves. The stories you have heard from me here, recorded and aired in late 2024 and early 2025, were the result of 6 years of writing, 6 of the 8 in my long distillation phase. Today, after a 9-month gestation, they seem to me to be only a snapshot of a dream, a way of being that was once well patterned, but which has already evolved in my psyche and soul. In the writing and sharing of my stories, I released everything I needed to move forward. This is the reason I have returned here today. I have indeed moved forward after a very long stillness. I could have left my story where it was, but I felt I had in a way left it hanging mid-alchemy. I left you, my listener, with a sense of alchemical promise, but not a promise fulfilled. I'm returning to tell you about it because alchemical gold did finally break through. It felt only right to share this lovely aspect of the story after you have been so kind to listen to so many of my difficult ones. Enter the labyrinth. After 4 years in Portugal, as I prepare to move yet again this very week, I have once again given away nearly everything I own. I have a list of items going to a variety of people I've come to care for. 3 couches, a bed, a round table and chairs for 8, all going to the friends at the local Pirouette Cafe, friends who have lifted my spirits at breakfast every day. Art, crystals, Buddhas, bookshelves, books, dishes, pots, pans are all going to various friends and a few strangers. I have shipped only 5 suitcases to the U.S., heavily packed with some of the largest crystals I've loved for years. I've taken some art prints out of their frames and stuffed them in a huge Buddhist book of deities. It was a gift from Terry many years ago. And that's it. I might have taken more, but while I knew it was time to go, I didn't know where I was going. I still don't know where I will land for my next season. London first, and then probably back to the U.S. I only know Portugal has served her purpose. It's important to go when you know it's time, even if that requires yet another leap into the void. As I looked at each item I might have kept, symbols of my history, my emotions, and my personal style. I knew that nothing of what held value to me resided in any of the actual items, not in their atoms. I need nothing concrete to tell me who I am now. Nothing concrete could. Oh, I'm sure I'll start over with new things, different things. I'll need to live somewhere, and that comes with stuff to sit on and sleep on and cook with. I'll probably get a handful of books again, but not more. At the final stage of the alchemical journey, at least according to the ancient woodblock prints, the books are torn up, abandoned for learning directly from life itself. I've experienced some of that recently, a boredom in reading, which was once my greatest joy. Even my alchemy books will no longer serve me one day. Why read what you already know, I heard in a recent dream. Fair enough. Beyond this, I have no more external updates. Emptiness will do that to you. Internally, however, mountains have moved. In fact, the promise of alchemy has reached a new height. I want to tell you about it. I want you to know how the lead of alchemy actually does turn to gold with the right attention and hard inner work. It is not theoretical only, not metaphor alone. But before I go into the details, let's quickly recap the alchemical journey so that we're on the same page. Alchemy, step 1, calcination or fire. Things burn down in your life, in your world. You have heard these stories ad nauseum here. Step 2, dissolution or flood, all the emotions. The fire's sooty soot gets soggy. Things further dissolve. It's a mess. Sound familiar? Step 3, separation. We are sorting. We'll salvage this, but have to toss everything that is too far gone or of no more use, like most of my stuff today. We are making sense of what's workable for the future and not, deciding, then getting on with it. The first 3 steps all occur in the human, earthly realm, and most people go round and round in the first 3 steps, their whole lives. Step 4, though, for those who can catch it, offers a spark, a leap, conjunction, the symbolic and literal union of opposites as the queen and king within. From them, something more has officially been conceived. But the philosopher's child is young and fragile. It must be nurtured before it can be strong enough to withstand the elements of the outer world. Step 5, ferment the substance that you are, grapes to wine, base to divine. This is not limited to material reality. In fact, true fermentation can only be accomplished through the soul. It goes through the process of putrefaction first, which is putrid indeed. You and your life become compost, hot dung. You stink to yourself and others. This was the stage I was in when I received the message of my soul death. Did my soul die? It surely seemed to for a very long time. Yes, the phoenix would rise, but I wasn't sure of that back then. Not sure at all. And the not being sure is part of it. Step 6, distill it. More like distill the hell out of it. Make it potent again and again and again. Remove all impurities, which is to say all ego. Make it more potent. More. Keep only the very best of the essence of the essence. Make it more potent still. More, again. For months, for years, for decades. And if you don't go all the way in this lifetime, not to worry. Your next lifetime is waiting for you. Step 7, coagulation. I once thought this was merely a ta-da moment, but the stage has its own process. It ripens slowly, shows itself only in time. The philosopher's stone appears first only in the hypnagogic dream states, then shows up in flashes of real life, before it becomes solidified as a thing. At first you hardly know it's happening, but when it does, there's no mistaking it. You now have a usable power that can transform anything, material or non-material. Anything. What I didn't know until recently was this. The stone is real. While I doubt it would show on an X-ray, it is not without sensation. It lands in your body as both invisible and energetically tangible. For me, it arrived fully formed and huge, as if overnight, spanning from my ribcage to my pelvis. I feel it as a porous object, yet indestructible. It's perfectly light. With this stone, you could not stray from your truth if you tried. It is the true solidness that you have become, the true self. And once in place, it doesn't budge. If it budges, it's not the stone. You might recall me once saying that if alchemy wasn't the highest path on earth, well, it was high enough for me. Looking back, it was astonishing hubris to think I could simply claim the path and get on with my life. Thinking especially that I could do it quick or easy, just because I'd awakened to a level of greater consciousness in that moment in 1997. But hubris, I have learned, is part of it. You need enough to push you along if you want to actually do something alongside your becoming. Light without form is but a puddle of beauty. Along with the stone came the clarification of why alchemy was the right path for me. It is for those who wish to not only ascend to the heights of human potential, but to simultaneously stay grounded enough to do some good in this world. To endure the lowest lows for the something more that wishes to exist and evolve here. The axis mundi, that central channel available to us all, is not there only to climb, but to climb and descend. With mastery, this can happen at will. But let me warn you, it takes a lot of will to intentionally go back down the axis once you have accessed the up. A lot of aspirants get lost here. We must realize we didn't come here just to leave with our personal spiritual goodie bag. We have to decide we came here not only for ourselves, but for us all. Like anything of an essential nature, it's tough to describe alchemical processes in literal terms. As ever, it's best told in stories. In my case, the stories came through dreams. They had to because nearly everything external in my life had stopped. Throughout my days, there was nothing to plan for, nothing I wanted or regretted or even cared much to remember. I felt the sense of past and future drop away. I watched as my old wishes either completed themselves, which is to say manifested on their own, or fell away from my psyche. Peace began to pervade my days, but, and this is important to admit, on the occasions when I wasn't feeling the peace, I was difficult to be around. I had no patience, no tolerance. My fuse was shorter than short. And those were my days. My nights, though, were lit on fire. Where there were once dream teachers, I now appeared as my own. It was me on me, and I was told not to look outside of myself anymore, for a guide or anything else. I was my own teacher, awake in the night with me, even as I slept. I became more and more lucid, as if my nightlife was more real than my daytime experience. This was my first clue something alchemical was happening. In fact, one night after a dream, I saw a woman to my right, and I knew her, an aspect of me, but separate too. She didn't look like me. To be the one in charge of my dreaming. I called her out, and she smiled and winked and said, "You found me." In the beginning, once things began in earnest, the nights were tough. For months, I had nightmares every single night. At first, they were personal. More than once, I watched my own 4-year-old child die. This was not a dream child, but one of the two I actually birthed. In one dream, my child was hit by a car and found nearly lifeless under it. As those two beautiful blue-green eyes faded, I knew there was nothing I could do but cradle my child, my love. The love that looked up at me with helpless adoration, with total surrender, broke my heart. Of course, I woke up weeping. Eventually, the dreams became non-personal, rather transpersonal. Nightmares still, but I would become lucid enough to remember who I was really and that this was only a dream. In each of these, I was only a witness to scenes that had nothing to do with my personal life. I knew none of the people. I understood none of the circumstances. Even so, I was allowed to interact and direct the dream. In one dream, I watched a man who was facing a wall be shot in the back of the head at close range. I was horrified and turned away, not wanting to watch him slump to the ground. But then I remembered that I was dreaming and that we don't die, and that I could speak to the dead. I avoided his body and looked for his spirit and found it to the right and above me. I said, "I'm so sorry that just happened." And he replied, "Are you kidding? I'm free now. This is great." A good message, I suppose, but why exactly did I need to see that? No part of me answered. After many months, the nightmares left, and more positive alchemical dreams began to surface. At one point, I had 2 dreams that were exactly the same in events, feelings, and metaphors, but all the people and places were different. In both, I was luxuriously kissing a man who felt like a best friend and potent lover, though we'd just met. I slowly realized people were watching us kiss. I apologized to the onlookers, and both times they said, "Not at all, that's amazing to watch." In the end of both dreams, I found a group of former students in line for a potluck dinner. My inner dream teacher helped me understand this was the courtship of what would become my inner marriage, my alchemical conjunction. Turns out, my dream lover was none other than what Jung would have called my animus. I also knew that, in leaving my teaching, I had left my students hungry and waiting. I would have to do something about that one day. The inner conjunction finally occurred in a state that was more than a dream. I was half awake, half asleep as I watched 2 figures emerge from the ethers. From the right, a king, and the left, a queen, ornately adorned, and they came together over a huge chalice. I knew this was the official marriage of my inner masculine king and my inner feminine queen. Once the ritual was complete and they were joined, married, I understood that no external marriage would ever compare to the true inner conjunction within, and that this is what I have been trying to find in my external relationships my entire life. This might have been the end of the dream stories, but conjunction is only step 5. Step 6, distillation, still had dreams coming for me. One night, in a very short dream, a female nurse I suspected was an alien or maybe a guide stood several feet away from me as I lay on a hospital bed, getting ready for what I knew would be 2 surgeries. She was kind and loving, yet told me she could not hug me. Once my inner dream teacher arrived to explain, I understood she could not hug me because that would contaminate me. This is classic distillation. One must be separated from anything external. In that moment, I also realized the why of my long years of solitude. It was to keep me from the contamination of outside ideas, energies, and influences. Not everyone has to go through this to this extreme. I often say that I am in the extreme sports of spirituality. But still, there'll be some version of it for everyone. I woke to the understanding that there would be 2 more significant losses, probably of the 2 things I was still most attached to. I knew what those were, and both losses arrived as if on cue after the dream. I took heart that the nurse guide had at least showed up to say she was sorry she couldn't hug me. I felt her care in that. It was some comfort. Who knows how many dreams there were all total before the dream of dreams arrived, the final test. But first, there was a sacrifice to make. I knew it, and I realized I had always known exactly what would be required. But I didn't want to give up my last serotonin hit, my last connective tissue to others, my last release valve. Nor did I trust that I could handle the full-throttle energy that would rush through me if there were no longer any dead weights to stop my own life force from fully igniting. So, the sacrifice. In every myth and legend, the hero must sacrifice something essential. I felt I'd already sacrificed more than I could imagine, but I knew there was one more thing that had to go. This was not going to be taken from me. I would have to willingly surrender, and it would take as long as it took. What was my great and dear sacrifice? Any negativity in story form. This was not the chronic complaining of life. but the negative bile within that escaped into the world when I was simply telling the truth of how I was in the tough parts of the journey, which was often not great at all. I was committed to honesty, so I would not simply say, "I'm fine," when I wasn't. The negative offered relief from the pressures of alchemy, and that pressure was not meant to be released, not at this late stage. It was meant to be distilled too. Further, negativity not only lances the boils on our metaphorical backs, it is also the glue that connects neighbors across backyard fences. How often do you only hear, "Wonderful, wonderful, all is wonderful," across that fence? Negativity is baked into nearly every aspect of our social lives. Just try to have a meaningful conversation without it. You'll see. Listening to another's complaints is like apes picking bugs from each other's coats of fur. It's what we do. It's how we connect. I mean, woe be the person who is actually happy, an outsider for sure. With this loss, I felt all the more alone. From the very beginning of the journey, I knew that negative talk was harming me because everything you put out is a boomerang. I knew I was a creator and that my words mattered. Even so, I indulged. And so, when this needed sacrifice became more than evident, I knew it was time. I told myself I didn't have to be positive or lie about how things really were, but I did have to choose to at least be silent. It wasn't easy because prior to this, talking the crappy stuff out was how I survived, how I got the pus out of my wounds. Now the pus festered within, and all I could do was sit with it. And so, I did that. I sat, and sat, and sat. It felt long, but it actually didn't take long at all in real time. Soon, the dream of dreams came to offer me a final test. In this dream, I have arrived at a theater class about to take a test. Each student was to make a presentation with costume and props, but I had none. There was no teacher, but the other students were upset that I had come unprepared. A kind young man dressed like a knight of the Round Table agreed to go instead of me, but I knew I could do what was required of me. I started telling a story, magically creating the images in the minds of the other students. Before me, I created a circular wall of gray painted cement that was perfectly smooth. From the inside of this cylinder, I walked the stairways that had no railings and went up the wall to the right, moving counterclockwise from 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock. I began climbing the very real stairs I spoke of, and they became real as I spoke. As I climbed, I talked about the world and my vision for it, the things I wanted most for us all. My fellow students were spellbound. Toward the top of the stairs, one step before the top, there was a horizontal wall keeping me from breaking through. It was of the same gray material as the staircase, cement. I had not spoken it into existence. It simply appeared as a barrier to what I truly wanted, enlightenment, which was just one step away. I knew what I needed to do. I imagined a ring, much like a men's college class ring, with 2 gemstones side by side forming a square, one of sapphire and one of emerald. I then imagined a square indentation the exact size of the ring's gemstones in the gray cement wall above me. I placed the ring in the indentation and turned it like a key. It created an opening just large enough for me to fit through, and I climbed up into the heavens of consciousness. All the while, I was describing this in detail so that everyone below me could experience it as real, and it was as real for them as it was for me. At this point, some more awakened aspect of my Robin self realized this was an important dream, became lucid, and joined as a witness. Once the horizontal barrier had opened and I had climbed up, I told the students below that I had found what I was looking for: enlightenment. I started speaking in a more poetic, almost Shakespearean style. I looked down through the opening in the barrier and realized that this was a permanent separation. I could descend at will, but my home was in the upper worlds now, and I would never again be able to play the old games of theater or participate through costume and props. There would be no putting this dreamer back to sleep. The others below were not aware that I'd used only magical words to create everything they witnessed, and my lucid Robin self warned my dreaming self that most would never understand what had just happened, at least until they, too, climbed those stairs. From this higher level, with everyone still mesmerized, I proclaimed that the babies of the world had stopped crying and the grandmothers wept in gratitude and awe. As I began to wake, my lucid self prompted me to find my phone and record the dream with as much detail as possible, something very rare for me to do. I saw myself get up, get my phone, and start recording before I was even fully awake. The dream's message was clear. Something in my alchemical journey, at least this round, was complete. My test was passed, through stories. While no graduation is the end of learning, I had graduated from a very intense round. I knew I'd accomplished what I came to this earth to do: break through the wall of illusion. From here on out, I would live awake inside the dream most of us call reality. The next morning, I put the dream symbols through their alchemical paces. They could not have been clearer. From the climbing of the gray cement stairs, the lead being transformed in an upward spiral, to the travel going counterclockwise, going against the limits of time, to the class ring with the sapphire, a symbol of heaven and mind, and the emerald, for alchemy, the earth and the heart, to the poetic words creating actual worlds, the imagination as imaginito vera, the word as the primal building block of creation. It was all there, even the shape of the ring, the circle of eternity holding the square gems of the limits of time that together opened the final step. These and more, it was as if every dream part was confirming itself. As I contemplated the dream, I understood I'd been given the instructions for how to live a self-directed, higher self that is, creative life while human. The very same instructions given by Hermes in the Emerald Tablet. I also understood that while in the dream I'd reached a stage or level of enlightenment, it was a place I'd traveled to, not a thing I owned. So far as I could tell, I was as flawed a human after the dream as I had been before. Alchemy's philosopher's stone is a gift to use, not a statement of perfection. As anyone with any advanced degree in anything will tell you, there are countless other things they are ignorant of. Still, I had come a long way from the child left to cry alone after seeing ghosts at a funeral home, from the teenager searching for God and love through sex, from the young wife and mother depressed and trying to escape, from the lover and teacher suddenly uprooted for a more profound inner journey. From this dream, I have drawn 8 aspirational guidelines for living as a human in this world. They are a living practice for me, emanating from the philosopher's stone in my body. 1. My words are spoken with conscious intent, lest I create worlds I do not want. And if I want potency, I need only raise those words to the level of poetry. 2. My purpose is clear: to help the babies stop crying and the grandmothers weep with gratitude and awe. What greater mission could there be? 3. I consult both my heart and mind in all decisions, just as I honor the square and the circle, the heavens and the earth, following alchemy's truth, as above, so below. 4. I enter each room and encounter without performance. I need no costume or props. 5. I trust in and use my higher will to act when I'm called to, even when it seems I'm not prepared or properly outfitted. 6. I follow my innate urge to continuously spiral up, for who knows how many other worlds there are to discover. 7. I accept that I do not fully belong to this world and probably never did. This is not separation for the sake of superiority, but for the value of a particular vantage point. 8. I bring back what I have found as my contribution to this world. As a bonus, from all my dreams combined, I tell myself this: when life gets scary, as it does sometimes, I treat it like the dream that it is. I stay curious, surrender instead of fight, disbelieve the bad ghosts, remember that all dreams end, and with lucidity change the outcomes I want in the field where everything is possible. So now, what with this newfound alchemical gold will I create next? I don't know. Whatever arises. Something will. Something always does. But this dream and my entire alchemical journey was never about the what. It was always about the how. The 7 steps of alchemy, which I have shared with you through these stories about stories. As for alchemy's hidden 8th step, that you'll have to learn for yourself, as every alchemist must. What I can tell you is the essence of what I'm dreaming. That we, you and me and all of us, do this life together better. That we create as a team, knowing we're on the same side, the side of this miraculous life. That we open to greater consciousness, let it support and guide our human evolution. That we make beautiful things that don't harm the earth in the making or the enjoyment of them. That we share generously and act wisely. That we come to know our true selves, our greater selves, our multidimensional selves. And that, in all of this, we do our stories proud. Enter your labyrinth at BeWhoYouAre.com.